Okay, in this demonstration, we're going to look at configuring Aurora. So we'll click on the Get Started Now button, and we're going to choose that Aurora engine. We know it's not part of the free tier, but notice it is the default engine once you come into the wizard, okay? And you can see that we're going to get up to 5 times the throughput of mysql that we looked at in the previous, okay? And up to 64 terabytes of auto-scaling SSD, 6-way replication across 3 availability zones, up to 15 read replicas, and automatic monitoring and failover in less than 30 seconds. So obviously, Amazon is kind of steering you towards using their managed server here. So we're going to go ahead and click on Next. When we get to database instance class, notice that we have a drop down here. We have tons of options, okay? We're starting out with the T2 small, which is 1 virtual CPU and 2 gigabytes of RAM, all the way up to the R416 large, which is 64 virtual CPUs and 488 gigabytes of RAM, okay? So for this demonstration, let's go ahead and choose the small option, which again, remember, is not part of the free tier. Notice that we do have the multi-availability zone deployment option. So the default here is to create a replica in a different zone. That's always going to be good for our high availability. We want to give this an instance identifier. We'll have a master username and, of course, a master password. We saw this already in the previous walkthrough with MySQL or MySQL. Click on Next. Here's our advanced settings. Again, same thing. Do we choose the default VPC or do I choose a user-defined VPC? Let's choose a user-defined VPC this time. What about the subnet group? I can create a new one. That's my option. Do we want to give public accessibility? Okay. Notice that if you do this, you have to choose one or more VPC security groups that designate which EC2 instances and devices can connect to the database instance. I'm going to stick with the default of no. For availability zone, I'm going to choose US East 2A. And then we'll go ahead and choose an existing VPC security group. And let's go to database options. We don't necessarily have to put a database cluster identifier in here because a default identifier based on this instance will be used, but we do need to give it a database name. The database port, as we know, is still 3306, and we'll stick with the default database parameter groups and database cluster parameter groups. Notice that encryption is enabled by default. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and use the key management service. Let's scroll on down here to